remember the wind that day. Not soft. It howled like a beast across Mount Othries, ripping through the laurel trees as if searching for me. She cannot stay hidden forever, Oceanus said, standing on the cliff's edge. His voice was low, carved from stone. Tethys didn't answer. Her eyes watched me instead. She's 16 now. Oceanus nodded. The fates will come. They already have. I spoke at last. My voice trembled like a thread between fingers. Tethys stepped closer. What did you see, child? I swallowed. My mouth was dry, my hands shaking. In my dream, I whispered, I stood on a throne, but it was built from bone. Tethys's breath caught. Oceanus turned slowly. I saw a man of lightning, I continued. His eyes, gold and cruel. I loved him, but he burned me. Tethys's face paled. The Morai. They were there, I said, spinning, laughing. Lachesis touched my cheek and said, You will bring ruin and rule. Oceanus crossed his arms. The storm begins. Tethys whispered, We cannot stop it, can we? No, I said, it has already begun. That night, I climbed to the spring where the sky opened above me. Stars pulsed like embers in the dark. My feet were bare, the grass wet with dew. I knelt and asked the stars, Why me? No answer, only silence. Behind me, a rustle. I turned, Mother, but it was not Rhea. She came moments later. Her robe flowed like mist. Her hair was a silver veil. Daughter, she said, stepping into the moonlight. They know. Cronus, all of them, her eyes glistened. Zeus is coming. Why? To claim you. I stood shaking. I am not a prize. She reached out, but I stepped back. I am not some tool of prophecy. You are more than prophecy, she said. But even gods must walk their threads. I clenched my fists. Then I will snap mine. She smiled sadly. You won't. Why not? Because you are stronger than you know. And strength does not hide. The next morning, thunder cracked the sky. He came in the storm. The air bent around him, a figure of lightning and shadow. His smile too wide, too bright. So, he said, my bride has grown. I said nothing. Zeus stepped forward, golden eyes searching mine. I've waited for you. I narrowed my gaze. Why? Because a thread told you to. He laughed. Because you are power, born of titans, shaped by ocean, and yet human in heart. I like that. I am not yours. You will be, he said, by will or fate. Oceanus stood beside me. She chooses. Zeus turned to him, amused. Then let her speak. My heart pounded. The wind died. I will come, I said. Tethys gasped. But not for you, I added, stepping past him. For Olympus. If the gods wish to bind me, they will do so in my name, not yours. Zeus grinned, then let Olympus rise. The journey was swift. He carried me in his chariot of clouds, the skis roaring beneath. I looked down and saw rivers trembling, villages kneeling. Does it please you? He asked. No, I said, they fear you. They respect me. There is a difference. He laughed. You'll learn. At the gates of Olympus, the gods waited. Hestia stood first, kind-eyed. Welcome, sister. I nodded. I am no one's sister. Apollo smirked. She has fire. Athena tilted her head. She has foresight. Zeus turned. She has prophecy. The fates have blessed our union. I interrupted. They cursed it. Silence. Ares muttered. She will bring war. Demeter stepped forward, placing a flower in my hand. Or peace. Peace is not born from chains, I said, meeting Zeus's gaze. He smiled, unfazed. Then let us forge new ones. That night, I sat alone in the hall of clouds. The marble walls shimmered, but I felt cold. Hestia joined me, her steps quiet. You are brave. I am afraid, I admitted. Good, she said. Fear keeps gods honest. I turned to her. Did you choose this life? She stared into the hearth. I chose fire. It asks nothing. It only gives. And burns. Yes, she smiled faintly. But sometimes, what burns purifies. Later, I dreamed again. The fates stood above me. Clotho held my infant form. Lachesis spun a golden thread. Atropos raised her shears. Why, I asked, why me? Clotho whispered, because you questioned. Lachesis added, because you saw. Atropos did not speak. She only cut. I woke with tears in my eyes. I stood at the edge of Olympus as the sun rose. Below, the world waited. Above, the heavens stretched forever. I whispered, I will not be your pawn. The wind carried no answer. Only the silence of gods. Only the weight of fate. When I was small, I used to press my ear to the sea's edge and listen. Tethys once told me, the ocean remembers everything, but it never remembered me. I was hidden, forgotten, even by time itself. They called me Hera, yet I had no temple, no name on mortal lips, no place among gods or titans. Only whispers, only fear. One night I asked Oceanus, why did Rhea hide me? He stared into the waves. Because Cronus feared you before you were born. I was only a girl. No, he said, you were a storm. I didn't understand it then, but I do now. The day before Zeus arrived, I climbed the olive trees that grew along the ridge of Othries. There I found a dying bird, a hawk with a broken wing. It thrashed against the ground, its eye wide, wild. I cradled it in my hands. Be still, I whispered. It struck my palm with its beak. Do you think I am your hunter? I said softly. But even mercy, when offered by the hand of fate, is terrifying. I wrapped its wing in cloth and held it to my chest. And I thought, this is how they see me. Not as a girl, not as a goddess, but as the hawk feared in flight, cursed in stillness. That night, Tethys found me in the grotto. She knelt beside me as I fed the fire. You've stopped asking questions. I stopped expecting answers. She brushed my hair back. You are more than their visions, Hera. They saw me burn the world, I whispered. What else am I supposed to be? You are what you choose. I looked at her, Do the gods get to choose? She didn't reply, and I knew, in her silence, she feared the truth as much as I did. When Zeus came, he brought no crown, only the weight of the sky in his stride. But even before I saw him, I felt him. The earth trembled, trees leaned toward him, clouds bent like slaves. I stood between Oceanus and Tethys as he approached, but still I felt alone. He stopped in front of me and said, "So this is she, the forgotten daughter, the Thunder Bride." I stared at him. "I am no man's bride." He grinned. "Yet you've already been dreamt of in my bed." Tethys moved to strike him, but I raised my hand. I faced him alone. "You speak of dreams," I said, "but what of nightmares?" He laughed. "We make those too. When I first saw Olympus, it was not as I'd imagined. It was beautiful. Yes, columns of white gold, fountains that sang in light. But it felt hollow, like a place built by pride, not love. Zeus led me through the halls, like a lion dragging meat. "Here is where the mortals pray," he said, showing me the sanctuary. "Here is where we hear them weep. And do you ever answer them?" "Sometimes," he said, "when it pleases me." I turned away. "Then you are no god, only a tyrant in the sky." He grabbed my arm, not hard, but firm. "You think you are above us," he hissed. "You think because the fates touched your thread, you are more." "No," I said, "I think I am not less." He stared at me for a long time, then released me. Later that evening, I walked the halls alone. I passed Demeter, who offered me pomegranate seeds. "For strength," she said. I accepted them, though I knew what they meant. Nothing in Olympus is freely given. That night, I returned to the balcony of clouds. The wind curled around me like a whisper. I looked up at the stars. "If I must be a goddess," I murmured, "then let it be on my terms." Behind me, a voice answered, "You will have to fight for them." I turned. Athena stood there, cloaked in silver armor. "And if I lose?" I asked. "Then lose as only a queen can," she said. With the sky in her eyes and fire in her blood, I stayed awake till dawn, watching the world beneath stir. I could see the mortal fires, distant and dim. They had no idea I existed, no idea I was watching, no idea I might one day judge them. I felt no pride, only sorrow, only the echo of the hawk's scream in my hand. And so, when the dawn came, I rose with it, not as a girl, not as a shadow, but as the one they feared, the one they forgot, the one they would soon kneel to. Hera, he came to me in a storm, not the kind that passes, the kind that swallows. Lightning split the sky above Mount Othrys, and his chariot descended in flames and thunder. When he stepped from the clouds, his hair glowed like sunlit wheat, and his voice echoed before he even spoke. "Hera." I didn't answer. He held out his hand. "Come, Olympus awaits its queen." I stared at his fingers, strong, golden, crackling with sparks. "Am I to choose?" I asked. He smiled. "The stars have chosen. You were spun for me." And if I refuse, the skis will mourn. His smile did not waver, but they will not stop turning. The journey was silent. I sat beside him, watching the earth fall away beneath us. Rivers became ribbons, forests ash-colored scars. Zeus watched me. You're not what I expected. What did you expect? A Titan girl, hungry for power. I was hungry, I said, once. And now, I'm watching a storm and wondering whether it will pass or drown me. Olympus rose from mist like a spear of marble and gold. Too perfect, too hollow, like something made to impress, not protect. As we arrived, the gates opened without a sound. They know you've come, Zeus said. I was summoned. No, he said, turning to me. You were chosen. The gods stood waiting. Athena first, still and sharp as a blade. So, she said, the prophecy walks. Not a prophecy, I replied. A person. Apollo approached, golden and careless. Let me sing of her, the girl from shadow, raised by ocean, bound by fate. I am bound by no one. He grinned. We all are. We just sing about it better. Hestia lingered at the edge, hands warm with flame. She offered me a cup. What is it? I asked. Sanctuary. I drank. It tasted like smoke and honey. She whispered, guard your heart. Why? Because it burns slower than the rest of you. That night, Zeus brought me to the high hall. Torches lined the walls. A feast waited: olives, figs, nectar, gold-spiced wine. I touched nothing. You are quiet, he said. I am watching. Am I so strange to look at? I'm trying to see the man beneath the god. He laughed. And what do you see? A conqueror who calls it love. His smile faded. Do you truly believe I brought you here in chains? I believe you gave them a prettier name. The days that followed were wrapped in silk and silence. I was dressed by nymphs who never looked me in the eye. They painted my lips red and braided pearls into my hair. Each morning, Zeus greeted me with offerings: a new garden, a thunderbird, a tapestry of stars spun in my likeness. I accepted none of them. One morning, he appeared at my door. You've not left the terrace, he said. There's little beyond it I wish to see. Olympus is yours. No, it is yours. I am only visiting your dream. He stepped closer. You were meant for this. Meant, I echoed. How easily you say that word. That evening, Athena joined me in the garden of irises. She walked in silence, then said, He listens to you more than he lets on. He listens for weakness, I replied. Perhaps, she said. Or perhaps you are the only one who tells him no. I turned to her. Would you have said yes? I was born from his skull. I never had the chance. She looked at me. You still do. I wandered through Olympus alone. The halls echoed with music, but none of it touched me. At the edge of the great dome, I found Apollo watching the stars. They still fear you, he said. Why? Because you came from the old blood, and because you do not kneel. I sat beside him. And what do you fear? He smiled. The silence between songs. I tilted my head. Is there truth in your music? Sometimes. And lies. He met my eyes, the prettiest ones. I began to notice the chains not in iron, but in expectation. At court, I was placed beside Zeus, silent and still. When mortals prayed, their voices reached only him. When gods debated, they spoke around me. I was dressed, displayed, crowned, but never heard. One night, I stood at the edge of the balcony, staring into the stars. I whispered, "Is this what the fates meant?" Behind me, Hestia said, "They rarely mean what we think." I turned, "Why do you stay?" She shrugged, "I tend the fire. It is not much, but it is mine. I have nothing. You have your name. Hera," I said it aloud. "What is it worth if I am only ever his?" She touched my hand. "Then carve it into the sky." At the next gathering, Zeus announced our union. "Let Olympus rejoice," he said. "The Queen of Heaven has taken her throne." Cheers erupted, nectar spilled, harps played, but my heart pounded like a war drum. He looked at me, triumphant. I looked at the gods, their eyes fixed, their mouths smiling, their hands clasped. Athena's gaze flicked to mine, not pity, warning. Hestia turned her cup over. Apollo's lute snapped a string, and in that moment I knew this was not the end of the beginning. This was the beginning of the cage. That night he came to me, no lightning, no storm, only silence. He reached for me. I stepped away. "You are angry," he said. "I am awake." He frowned. "I have given you everything. You gave me nothing that was not already yours. I crowned you. I was not born for a crown," I said. "I was born to choose." He stared at me. "You are mine." "No," I whispered. "I am me." He raised his hand, not to strike, but not gently either. I did not flinch. He lowered it slowly. "The fates chose poorly, or perfectly," I said, "depending on who suffers more." I returned to the balcony, where the stars bled gold. I thought of my mother, hiding me beneath the world, of Oceanus, whispering, "Storms do not ask permission," of the hawk with the broken wing, of the thread gold burning, snipped too soon in my dream. Could the Moirai be wrong, or were they laughing still? I closed my eyes. Let Olympus burn if it must. I would rise from its ashes, not as his queen, but as its judge. "You're restless," Hestia said, kneeling beside the hearth. The firelight danced on her face, soft and steady. She fed it with a sprig of laurel and watched the flame curl upward like a sigh. "I cannot rest," I replied. "Not when I feel the walls closing around me." "Olympus has no walls," she said. "That's the trick," I murmured. "The cage is invisible." Later, I found myself alone in the Hall of Echoes, where prayers from mortals rose like whispers through the stone. Voices reached me, mothers crying for their children, kings begging for rain, lovers calling across oceans. But not one prayer bore my name. Not one voice asked for Hera. I clenched my fists. They only see him. Behind me, a familiar voice. They always will. Athena stepped forward, her eyes glinting like a blade drawn in moonlight. You knew this, she said. I thought I could change it. You thought you could change him. We walked in silence, her steps measured, mine unsteady. Did you ever try, I asked, to change him, to defy him? She stopped. Defiance has many forms. Silence is one of them. I will not be silent. Then prepare for war, she said. The next morning, Zeus summoned me. I found him in the Hall of Storms, seated upon his throne of thunderclouds. He didn't look at me. There are whispers. There are always whispers. They say you do not smile, that you walk as if Olympus is beneath you. I met his gaze. Should I smile for them, for you? I made you queen. You made me silent. He stood. You forget what power is. No, I said. You forget what fear is. His jaw tensed. Do not speak to me of fear. I breathe it, Zeus. Every day I wake in this place that is not mine, wearing names I did not choose. Wife, queen, consort. He stepped forward. And what would you call yourself? Hera, I said, daughter of Titans, keeper of vows, goddess of will. His eyes darkened, clouds gathering in their depths. You were nothing before me. I was hidden, I said, not nothing. I left before he could answer. My feet took me to the olive groves, where the wind sang among the leaves. There I found Apollo stringing a new lyre. You shine brighter when you're angry, he said. I didn't smile. Do you ever stop watching? It's how I learn. Songs need truth. And what truth will you write of me? He strummed a gentle note. The girl who would not bend, not even for a god, especially not for a god. He set down the lyre. Do you love him? He asked. No. Will you? Not if the fates command it. He leaned forward. Then write your own thread. They already cut it once. Then tie it back with blood. That night, I stood beneath the stars again. I whispered to the sky, Moirai, you who see all, if this is your will, then you have erred. The wind did not answer, but something inside me stirred, not rage, not sorrow, something sharper, resolve. In the morning, I stood before the hearth and placed my hand into the flame. Hestia gasped, What are you doing? I need to know, I said, if I still feel pain. The fire licked my palm. It burned. And yet, I did not pull away. Then you are still alive, Hestia whispered. Good. The gods dined again. Laughter echoing down the marble halls. Zeus raised his cup. To Olympus, eternal divine. I raised mine slowly. And to the chains that hold it up, invisible, but unbreakable. The table fell silent. Apollo watched me with wide eyes. Athena nodded once. Hestia lowered her gaze. Zeus placed his cup down, thunder humming low in his throat. Careful, he said. I am, I replied, at last. That night, I tore the pearls from my hair. Let them scatter. Let them fall. Let the world know. I was not his crown. I was the storm rising beneath it. The wedding day arrived with thunder and roses. gold laced my hair, and ambrosia filled the air. Every god in the heavens assembled to witness my binding. Mortals lit 1,000 pyres below. A union of king and queen, they said, a sacred bond. They did not see my hands tremble beneath the silk. You look divine, said Leto, gliding to my side in the bridal chamber. Her voice was warm, but her eyes were tired. I turned toward her. Do you remember your wedding? I never had one, she said, brushing a curl from my shoulder. Zeus preferred secrecy. Did he prefer you? I asked. She hesitated. He preferred the chase. The music began beyond the archways. Hymns, cheers, chimes. But inside me, there was only stillness. Walk with pride, Leto whispered, even if it kills you. And so I did. Zeus stood beneath the marble columns, radiant, crowned in lightning. He smiled when he saw me, as if he hadn't tried to mold me into silence only days before. I smiled back, as if I hadn't already started planning my rebellion. At the feast, I sat beside him, draped in ivory and gold. Apollo played his lyre. Dionysus poured wine that turned stars into laughter. Mortals danced in flames, believing their prayers had birthed Olympus itself. I've given you a throne, Zeus said, leaning close. What more do you want? Myself, I whispered. He laughed, and the heavens rumbled with him. Days passed. The crown grew heavier. At first, he returned to me at dusk, his body humming with storm. But his hands grew colder with each visit. Then they stopped altogether. One night, I woke alone. The bed chilled where he once lay. I waited. He didn't return. When dawn broke, I followed the scent left behind: smoke, salt, and something sweet. Perfume not divine, mortal. Hestia found me, packing near the balcony. Do not go looking, she warned. If I must bleed, I will not do it blind. She touched my arm. You cannot fight all his hungers. I only need to fight one. I wandered the halls, listened to the wind through marble. I learned to hear the gods when they whispered, when they lied. That was when I heard her name. Callisto, Apollo murmured to Artemis one evening as they passed through the starlit corridor. He's turned her into a bear. Artemis narrowed her eyes to hide her from Hera, coward. A bear, my husband's latest betrayal, tucked into the wild like a secret child. I said nothing, but I watched. Weeks later, I called Leto to me. Where is he? I asked. She didn't pretend not to understand. With another. Whose child does he bear now? She looked away. Mine were first, not the last. You pity me? I asked. No, she said gently. I fear what you'll become. The fire started then, quiet, hidden. A slow heat rising beneath the veil I wore for the world. The next name I heard was worse. Alcmene, a mortal queen, proud and untouched, until Zeus came to her in her husband's shape. He left her with child, a child born of deceit. I asked nothing. I already knew. In the hall of crafts, I found Hephaestus alone, hammering bronze into shape. He looked up, his face half shadow, half light. "Mother." "I am no mother," I said bitterly. "But you will be," he replied. I stared at him. "What did you say?" He didn't flinch. "One day you'll birth your vengeance." I sat in silence, watching him shape armor for a war not yet named. "My father does not see what he creates," Hephaestus said, "only what he owns." "And what of me?" I asked. "What am I?" His eyes were soft. "You are the fire he forgot to fear." Later that night, I stood before the mirror unadorned. No veil, no crown. I pressed a hand to my belly. Flat, empty, still mine. "I will not bear his lies," I whispered. But the veil remained, and beneath it, my fury simmered. Not yet rage, but close, very close. The stars above Olympus no longer soothed me. They felt like eyes, eyes that watched me endure, eyes that did not blink when he left me again. He came to me 2 days later, his robes scented with strange flowers and sea winds. He smiled as if nothing had cracked. "I missed you." "Did you?" I asked. He stepped closer. "You are my wife. A name is not a vow." He reached for me. I did not move. He studied my face. "You've grown sharp, Hera." "No," I said. "You've grown careless." He laughed, that easy, blinding laugh. "You speak like prophecy now." I met his eyes. Maybe I am one. He tried to kiss me. I turned my head. "You sulk," he said, voice heavy with amusement. "I see," I corrected. "There is a difference." He left again that night. No lies this time. No stories. Just silence. And I preferred it. In the garden below the west wing, I watched Artemis tend her sacred grove. She moved like moonlight, precise and untouchable. "Do you hate him?" I asked from the shadows. She didn't turn. "Which him?" "You know." She plucked a flower. "Hate is not the word." "Then what is?" She straightened. "I do not trust gods who take what they cannot hold." "Then we share a language," I said. Later, I found a letter tucked into my chamber doors. A nymph's handwriting, delicate, faintly perfumed. He forgot to hide it. It was a poem, a love song. Not for me. I burned it, not in rage, but as a funeral offering to the woman I had once been. "You should leave him," Hestia said quietly over tea. "And go where?" I asked. "Home." "There is no home. My mother gave me to the river. My father would swallow me whole." Hestia looked at the fire. "Then build one. Even in ashes, warmth can begin." For the first time in many moons, I dreamt, not of thunder, but of vines twisting around a throne, of a golden child in chains, of my hands holding a torch. When I awoke, I found Hephaestus waiting outside my door, silent as stone. "Speak," I said. He held up a small piece of armor, a delicate silver circlet shaped like flames. "I thought it might fit you better than pearls." I took it slowly. "I have no army," I said. "You don't need one," he replied. "You have memory." I wore the flame circlet that day, not the bridal crown. The court watched in silence, as I passed. Even Apollo said nothing. Even Athena looked twice. Zeus didn't notice, or pretended not to. But I saw Callisto from the clouds that evening, fur-matted, eyes wild. Her prayers were silent now, just grunts and fear. He had hidden her in Artemis's forests, thinking I would never dare trespass. He did not know how much I had already learned from Artemis. I sat before the hearth again that night. I was raised by the river, I whispered to the flames. They taught me stillness. The fire crackled, but I am not still anymore. My reflection in the bronze basin flickered with heat. My eyes no longer trembled. My lips no longer smiled. I did not rage. Not yet, but rage was near, waiting in the wings of my breath. The fire beneath the veil had grown, and I, Hera, no longer feared its burn. The sea left salt on my skin, even days after I left Thetis behind. But Olympus was colder now. Zeus barely spoke. He suspected me, but proof eluded him. Still, mistrust coiled in the halls like smoke, and I welcomed it. The rot he planted in me had begun to root in him, and I watered it with silence. But silence has its own dangers, and questions grow in its soil. I needed clarity, and there was only one place the gods feared to look for truth: in the forge beneath the mountain, where the broken god lit fires none could extinguish. I descended in secret. The others believed I was praying at Delphi. Let them. Hephaestus heard me before I entered. The clang of hammer paused, but he did not look up. Mother, he said, you bring no wine, no praise. I bring questions, I said. Of course you do. The forge was alive. Molten bronze dripped in slow veins across black stone. The air trembled with heat. Tools moved without hands, metal obeying his will. And in the center stood my son, limping with purpose. You do not visit often, he said without turning. You do not welcome me. I welcome no one, especially not the ones who let him throw me from the sky. My throat tightened. I did not throw you. No, he said, finally facing me. His eyes were embers. But you did not catch me either. Silence. What could I say that would not crack beneath its own weight? I was afraid, I whispered. So was I on the fall. I stepped closer. He said you were deformed. He said I was imperfect, Hephaestus spat. But I build perfection with these hands, while he destroys it with his. I looked at the forge, at the golden gears, the weapons of war suspended midair. Show me the truth, I said. What truth? The one beneath the lies, beneath the thunder. He tilted his head. You want a mirror, not a weapon. Yes. He turned and beckoned me deeper into the mountain. There, in a chamber lit only by lava veins, he placed a mirror of beaten bronze upon a stone altar. This shows what will be, he said, if nothing changes. I approached. My breath caught. Olympus in ruins. Temples shattered. Statues broken. The sky bled fire. Zeus gone. Athena turned to stone, Apollo burning from within, and me, crowned, robed in gold and vengeance. Alone, I recoiled. No, I whispered, that cannot be. It will be, Hephaestus said. You asked for the truth. I looked again. In my eyes was fury, glory, and pain. I did not ask for a crown. Then stop walking toward it. I turned away. I came to find a path, not prophecy. Then you came to the wrong son. I faced him. I never stopped loving you. You never started fighting for me. I am fighting now. For yourself. His words struck clean and true. I closed my eyes. Do you hate me? He shrugged. I forge. I do not hate. It wastes too much fire. We stood in silence. The flames spoke in cracks and murmurs. Then he said softly, he fears you now. I know. What will you do with that fear? I will hold it, I said, until it becomes power. Hephaestus looked at me long, then turned and pulled something from the coals, a band of bronze, etched with stars. A gift, he said, to remind you of the weight of your choices. I took it. It was warm and heavy. Then Hermes appeared in the corner, as if summoned by fate itself. He leaned against a pillar, grinning. Do you always whisper in volcanoes? Hephaestus groaned. Get out. Hermes ignored him. Queen Hera, he said, bowing theatrically. Your absence is noted and missed. I doubt the latter, I replied. True, he said, but I do bring a message. Zeus wants you at the feast tonight. He says, and I quote, let Olympus see unity. I raised a brow. Unity built on ash. Hermes shrugged. He didn't specify the material. He vanished with a wink and a gust of cinders. I turned to Hephaestus. I must go. He nodded once. Wear the band, not for him, for you. I did. At the feast, the halls glittered with false laughter. Zeus sat tall beside me, gripping his chalice like a scepter. Apollo sang. Athena scowled, and I smiled. For the crowd, my queen, Zeus said, voice honeyed. Where were you today? In the mountains, I said, seeking warmth. Did you find it? I looked at him. I found fire. He grinned, but I saw the flicker of uncertainty in his eyes. He knew something had changed. Later, as the music slowed, he touched my hand. I remember when I first saw you, he said. You glowed. I still do, I said. You've just stopped looking. He pulled away. So many walls between us, Hera. No, I said, only truth. He stood and left the table. I did not follow. Let him sit in his emptiness. Let him feel the absence of my loyalty, as I had felt the absence of his love. That night, I stood beneath the stars and whispered into the wind. Mother Rhea, I said, what did you see in me when you hid me from his hunger? The wind did not answer, but I felt her in the silence. I returned to my chamber and placed the bronze band from Hephaestus beside my crown. And for the first time, I looked at both. One was cold, the other burned, and I asked myself the question I dared not speak aloud. Can a woman made of fire wear a crown and still feel love? I did not sleep. Power does not sleep. It waits. I could not unsee what the mirror had shown me. That vision me on a throne, surrounded by ruin, had taken root in my soul like ivy in stone. It grew quietly, persistently, choking everything tender. And yet, I walked the palace halls as if I were unchanged. Hera, Hesja's voice, pulled me from my thoughts. She stood in the garden of ambrosia trees, barefoot in the grass. The torches did not flicker near her. Flame bowed to her presence. Your fire is restless, she said, her gaze soft but steady. You feel it. It brushes the air like wings before a storm. Tell me. I sat beside her. The grass bent gently beneath me. I went to the forge, to Hephaestus. She said nothing, only nodded once. He showed me what might be if I keep walking the path I tread. And I wear a crown, but I wear it alone. Hestia placed a warm hand over mine. The gods call it power, but it is weight, and few carry it without breaking. I do not fear the weight, I said. I fear what it will turn me into. She turned her face to the stars. Then anchor yourself. Find what is still tender. Feed that fire too. But I did not know if there was anything left in me that was tender. The next day, I walked into the temple of my own name and found Athena already there. She stood beside my statue, arms crossed, her eyes as sharp as the blade she carried. Planning a war, I asked. I plan everything. I circled her, even your mother. She stiffened. You dare. I dare nothing. I only ask. Athena's voice dropped. She bore me from his head, without touch, without consent. And yet you defend him, I said. I defend Olympus. No, you defend your idea of Olympus, built by his hand, and you would tear it down. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Be careful, Hera, she said. Some fires consume more than the enemy. I left without another word. Athena understood strategy, but not love, not betrayal, not the ache of loyalty broken over and over until the only thing left is steel. I returned to my chambers. I needed time, but time was another god I could not command. At dusk, Hermes appeared again, casual as ever, perched on my balcony rail like a crow. You're becoming popular, he said. I've always been watched. Now they're just afraid. He grinned. Zeus asks for you. Again, he wants peace. Peace, I echoed. He confuses silence with surrender. Hermes leaned closer. Hera, he senses what you're becoming. Good. Hermes hesitated. There are whispers, he said, among the younger gods. Some speak of following you. I turned. Why? Because fear is shifting. It no longer coils around his thunder. It moves toward you, toward your fire. I looked past him, into the skies that had once seemed eternal. I did not ask for followers. No, Hermes said, but they come anyway. He vanished. leaving me with my thoughts and a quiet, blooming dread. What happens when power gathers not because you call it, but because others demand it of you? That night, I dreamed of Prometheus. He was bound to his cliff, his chest open to the eagle's beak, but he smiled. "Hera," he said through blood and agony, "you've finally begun." I reached for him, but my fingers turned to smoke. "Did I begin justice?" I asked, "or destruction? Do you believe the gods know the difference?" He laughed. "Do you?" I awoke sweating. Days passed. Whispers thickened. Some gods smiled longer at me during feasts. Some knelt just a heartbeat deeper. Some watched Zeus with narrowed eyes. And he saw it. He came to me one evening, dressed not as king, but as lover, robe unfastened, eyes low with wine. "Hera," he said, "we are unraveling." "No," I said, "you are unraveling." He sat beside me. "There was a time when you touched my hand and storms broke in the sky. There was a time when I believed your hands would never touch another." He winced. "I was foolish. You still are." Silence. Then he whispered, "I miss who we were. I miss who you pretended to be." He reached for me, but I stood. "Do not mistake regret for change. You will lose everything," he warned. "I already have." I left him there, with his thunder and his lies. Later, I stood at the edge of Olympus, watching the mortal world flicker with their fires, their offerings, their prayers. They still believed in the illusion, in gods who listened, in rulers who were just. Hestia found me again. "You are no longer walking," she said. "You are marching." "Toward what?" "That is what you must decide." I turned to her. "Tell me, do you ever regret staying out of it all?" She smiled. "I tend the hearth, Hera, not the storm. But that doesn't mean I don't feel the lightning." I almost envied her. But envy is a dangerous echo of longing, and I no longer longed for peace. The final thread came when I visited Hephaestus once more. He did not speak, only handed me a new mirror. This one showed not what would be, but what could be. Zeus dethroned, Olympus restructured, the throne shared, fire balanced by order, wrath honed into justice, and I not alone. Beside me, my son, my kin, my own will. I held the mirror tight. The time of watching was over. I would act. Let the other gods whisper. Let Zeus rage. Let Olympus tremble. For I was no longer the wife behind the veil. I was the fire beneath the mountain, and I was rising. The mirror still burned in my hands, even after I left Hephaestus, even after the forge cooled and Olympus turned once more under the stars. I felt its weight in my bones. A future that might be, a fate I might claim. But that fire flickered when I heard the name. Semele, immortal, a child carrying Zeus's blood in her womb. I clenched my fists. "Another," I whispered. "Another girl he whispered love to. Another vessel for his seed. Another secret he thought I would not discover. Only This one he protected. He wove clouds around her house, sent Hermes to veil her from divine sight. He did not want me to find her, so I did. I went alone, dressed in rags, wrapped in mist, my divine scent muted to match a mortal woman. I knocked upon her door with soft knuckles, and when she answered, she smiled like spring sunlight. "Who are you?" she asked, innocence shining in her eyes. "A friend," I said, "a stranger who heard a strange tale. May I come in?" She hesitated, but kindness overruled sense. She opened the door. Her home was warm with lavender and myrrh, a cradle of safety wrapped in dreams. I hated it, not because she was evil, but because she believed. "Your belly shows," I said softly, gazing at her stomach. "Who is the father?" She flushed. He is mighty. He is a god." "Oh, and does he name himself?" "Zeus," she whispered. I nodded slowly. "Has he shown you his true form?" "No," she said quickly. "He comes in shadows, in dreams, but I know it's him." "You trust that?" "I feel it in my soul." I leaned closer, as if confiding. "They say gods take many shapes. Tricksters, liars. How can you be sure it's Zeus and not some fallen demon? Some spirit of lust?" She shook her head. "No, he loves me." "Then ask him," I said gently. "If he truly loves you, ask him to appear in his true divine glory. That is the oath only a god in love would keep." She frowned. "But that could be dangerous. Mortals cannot see. And yet, what kind of love hides in shadow?" I stood. "You deserve truth, child. Demand it. You carry a god's child. That means you are owed more than dreams." I left her house without another word. I told myself I had saved her from heartbreak, from the same cage I had been thrown into. I told myself I had done it out of justice, not jealousy. But when the heavens cracked the next night, when the sky split like a curtain and fire poured down, I knew I had lied to myself. Zeus had appeared in his full form, lightning, flame, divinity unfiltered, and she had burned. Her cries reached even Olympus. Hestia found me first. "What have you done?" I didn't answer. She stepped closer. The child lived. I turned to her. "What?" "Dionysus, born from ash. Zeus sewed him into his thigh to protect him." I could not breathe. "She should not have died," I murmured. "No," Hestia said, "but you nudged the stone down the mountain." She left me there, staring into nothing. Later, I stood at the edge of the balcony, watching clouds coil above Thebes. Lightning still danced. Thunder rolled long and low, like mourning. Zeus did not speak to me for 3 days. Then he came not in rage, but in silence. He held a small bundle of cloth in his arms. The child, Dionysus, eyes closed, breathing soft, wrapped in firelight and storm silk. "He is mine," Zeus said. "And hers," I replied. He nodded. "I will raise him away from Olympus. You will not see him. You think this is kindness. I think it is survival." I stepped toward him. He will ask one day where his mother went, who took her from him, and I will lie. I stared at him. You make monsters, and you burn them, he said. He vanished, leaving only a whimpering wind behind. I wandered to the temple of the fates. Their loom was never still. Threads wove themselves across eternity, red and gold, black and silver. I did not bow, but I stood long, until Clotho spoke. You sought to change a thread. Lachesis added, and created another knot. Atropos whispered, you are not the first. Was it fated, I asked, what I did? No, they said in unison. You chose. That is your burden. I laughed bitterly. You laugh? Clotho asked. I weep in another language. They returned to weaving. Alone, I sat beneath the stars. I thought of Semele, of her smile, of her trust, and I saw myself, long ago, young, untouched, full of belief. I did not mean to be this, I whispered, and the stars said nothing. The next morning, Athena met me in the council chamber. Word spreads, she said. The mortals mourn. Dionysus is hidden. I turned my gaze to her. Are you here to scold? No, she said, to warn. Of what? You are walking a path that ends in isolation. Perhaps I prefer solitude to betrayal. She stepped closer. I know what it is to be born of flame and thought, to have no mother, no softness. I met her eyes. Then do not judge what you do not mourn. She left me a single olive branch on the table. No words, just the weight of silence. Dionysus vanished into the hills. Whispers said nymphs raised him in caves of ivy and wine. I heard he laughed often. I hated that I felt envy. Do you regret it? Hestia asked me once. I don't know. Then it is not over. But I felt something cracking inside me. Not the usual fire. Something softer. Something like shame. I visited the river Lethe. Its waters took memory. I knelt beside it, but did not drink. I did not want to forget. I only wanted to understand. When I returned, the halls of Olympus were quiet. Too quiet. Hermes met me near the altar. Dionysus grows, he said, faster than mortal children. Does he ask for her? No, Hermes said, but he dreams of her. The nymphs say he calls her name in sleep. I closed my eyes. Will he know what I did? One day, he said. I nodded. Then one day he may come for me. Hermes tilted his head. Will you fight him? I will not need to, I whispered. He will already be broken, just like me. I passed the halls of Olympus that night as though in exile. A goddess in name, a queen in ashes. I reached the loom of the fates once more. You've come again, they said. I nodded. Why? To see if the thread still burns. They did not answer. They only held it up, my thread, red as fire, black as grief, and still uncut. Dionysus did not come for me. Not yet, but I felt his shadow stirring, out there in the wild vineyards, growing among the ivy, twisting into divinity. I knew the look of an outcast turned god. I had worn it first, yet Olympus forgot quickly. Zeus drank, Apollo sang, Athena sharpened blades for wars not yet born. Only Hestia and I remembered Semele. Only we carried her ash like dust in our bones. But the fates had not forgotten, and neither had I. One night, I dreamt of a garden, rotting figs, black pomegranates. A tree stood in the center, dripping venom instead of sap. At its roots coiled a serpent, vast and glistening. Its eyes opened, and I saw myself reflected there, crown heavy, heart hollow. Then it spoke, "You seek power, but what you need is choice." I woke gasping, my sheets soaked in divine sweat. The next day, I descended to the edge of the world, to a place gods do not tread lightly, the forgotten shrine of Echidna, mother of monsters. Few remembered her, even fewer dared. But I had questions only monsters would answer. The air was thick with decay. I stepped over bones, some animal, some not. Her lair was hidden behind waterfalls that bled red with iron. Even the rocks whispered warnings. Still I entered. She did not rise at first, but I felt her watching, a gaze that slithered beneath my skin. "You are brave," she hissed, "or desperate?" "Both," I said. The shadows peeled apart, and she emerged, half woman, half serpent, scales gleaming like obsidian moonlight. Her smile was full of teeth too long to be kind. "Why come to me, Queen of Olympus?" she mocked. "Is your golden husband not enough?" I said nothing. "You wear the crown," she coiled around a pillar, "but it chokes you." I came for truth. "No, you came for leverage," she said. "Be honest. It's more useful." She slithered closer, flicking her tongue. "You want to be feared, revered, to rule alone, not beside the thunder, above it." "I want justice," I said. "Same thing." I stared at her. "You knew the old ways, before Olympus rose. I remember when Rhea wept, when Cronus swallowed your kin. Then you know why I fight." She bared her fangs in something like a smile. "You fight because love made you small, and hate makes you hungry." I swallowed. "I need a bargain." She laughed. "What could you offer me?" "Sanctuary," I said. "There are temples where your name is still whispered. I could restore them." Her eyes glittered. "You would trade worship for whispers." "I would trade anything," I said, "to unmake Zeus." Silence. Then she nodded slowly. "There is a prophecy hidden beneath the roots of Olympus," she said. "A secret even the fates fear." I leaned closer. "There will come a child," she whispered, "born of no womb, raised in shadow, who will cast down the king of gods, but only if guided by a queen who has tasted fire." I froze. "That is me. Perhaps. Or perhaps it is the echo of what you used to be." I narrowed my eyes. "What must I do?" She slithered around me now, a circle of scaled divinity. "You must awaken Typhon." I stiffened. "You jest." She smiled. "Do I?" "Typhon is buried under Tartarus. Exactly, she said. You want power. Wake the father of monsters. I turned away. Even my rage had its borders. But her voice chased me into the dark. Don't come asking for change if you're too afraid to bleed for it. I returned to Olympus, carrying more than just dust. I carried options, the most dangerous thing in any god's hand. That night, I stood before the council, Zeus on his throne, Ares smirking beside him, Athena unreadable. I want a place, I said, to build my own power. Zeus raised an eyebrow. You are my queen. Olympus is yours. No, I want dominion. Of what? I lifted my chin. Of vows, of oaths, of marriage. Let all who swear binding promises do so in my name. Whispers circled the room. Apollo frowned. That is no small ask. Athena added, You wish to control the words that bind mortals and gods. Yes, Zeus stared. Then he laughed. You think I fear promises. I said nothing. He leaned forward. And what will you do, Hera, if I say no? I met his eyes and smiled. I'll ask again, louder. He granted it, whether out of love or mockery or caution, I never knew. But from that day, all sacred oaths bore my name. All betrayals stained my hands, and I began to build. Temples rose across the mortal world, not for love, but for binding. Women prayed to me when their husbands strayed. Kings begged me to bless alliances. Priests swore upon my name when sealing pacts. They thought they were honoring marriage. They were building my arsenal. Still, I remembered the serpent's words, and I kept my ears open for a child without a womb. One day, Hermes returned from the east, breathless. There's a whisper, he said, of a girl born from lightning. No parents, no past. Where? Among the Amazons. I smiled. The prophecy stirred. But before I could reach her, Athena confronted me. You're gathering too much, she said. Too much of what? Influence, worship, loyalty. You mean I threaten you? I replied. She nodded. Yes, I studied her. Athena, born of Zeus's mind, without mother. Brilliant, cold, calculated. Then let us make a pact. She arched a brow. You offer me peace. I offer you partnership. And what would you gain? I stepped closer. A future where women shape Olympus, not just endure it. She did not answer for a long time. Then swear it. So I did. And for the first time in centuries, I felt no bitterness as I did. But peace is fragile, and gods are quick to envy. Dionysus returned, wreathed in ivy and madness. He strode into Olympus laughing, crowned by mortals as god of wine and ecstasy. Zeus welcomed him with open arms. I stayed seated. He looked at me, eyes like similes, smile like storm. He said nothing. I said less, but in the silence, I felt the battle waiting, not of swords, of stories, for every drop of wine poured in his name. One less prayer rose to mine. Ares warned me, he will undo you. I raised war, I reminded him. I do not fear it, but something inside me whispered, the war is already here. One night, alone in my temple, I lit 7 braziers and called the fates again. They did not come. Only silence, only smoke. I sat in it for hours, waiting, breathing. Then a voice, not my own, whispered, "There's no undoing now, only ascending." And I understood. It was not revenge I sought. It was sovereignty, not as wife, not as mother, but as Hera, alone, divine, unbroken. I walked into the grand hall of Olympus with the confidence of a queen, not merely a queen in name, but a force. The torches blazed, reflecting gold on immaculate marble. Gods and goddesses paused in their cups and conversations, eyes narrowing as I entered. Zeus sat on his throne, thunder coiling in the air around him. His smile was thin. "Welcome to my court," he said, voice warm but brittle. I nodded, raising my hand to silence the murmurs. This court belongs to more than one. The gods exchanged glances. Ares grinned. Athena watched me keenly, her blade hidden in shadow. Apollo's lute went silent. Zeus inclined his head. "Let us feast." I lifted my cup to the new order. His brow twitched. The feast began with music and laughter. Nymphs danced around the center. The smell of ambrosia and honeyed bread filled the room. But beneath the sweetness, I tasted iron. "Your worship spreads," Athena said, leaning close. "The mortals whisper your name before his." "I do not mourn it," I replied softly. She nodded slowly. "Neither do they." I touched the bronze band Hephaestus made me. It glowed faintly under torchlight. Zeus raised a clay goblet. "As queen, you may declare one change. Let Olympus hear it." I stood, all eyes fixed on me. I spoke slowly. "Let all gods bound by oaths, friendship, marriage, alliance, be held under my blessing." I paused. "Let any broken vow be judged by me. Let betrayal be answered with my wrath." Silence. Mortals below would tremble at these words. But the gods, they watched. Ares smirked. "A judge now." "A protector," I said. He laughed. "And who judges you?" I met his gaze. "The fates will." Light flickered as thunder rumbled overhead. Zeus rose, slow, deliberate. "Hera," he said, voice low, "you overreach." I act. "You pursue power," he said, "not justice." "I pursue both." He stepped closer, thunder brightening around him. "You threaten Olympus." I felt the hall tighten around us. I said boldly, "I am Olympus." Gasped. I held his gaze. He moved, lightning cracked. I did not flinch. "Hera, stop this," he hissed. "I never started." Zeus extended his hand. "Then stand by me." I looked at his palm, calm eye in a storm. I raised my own hand. "All who stand with me, speak now." Hestia rose softly, resolutely. "I stand." Athena followed, silent blade in her voice. "As do I." Hermes nodded, wings gleaming. "I stand." Zeus's eyes flicked across the hall. Hades did not move. Poseidon did not. Demeter, quiet tears in her eyes, stood. Apollo bowed, mournful. Artemis hesitated, then quietly stepped forward. The balance shifted, but so did the tension. Zeus closed his hand into a fist. You challenge me. I smiled. I challenged the notion that one man can own Olympus. He laughed. She is mad, Ares spat. Madness breeds revelation, I replied. Zeus stepped forward, towering. Then reveal your hand. I raised the bronze band. This binds us. He surged lightning across the hall. Walls hummed. I never blinked. Let this be our oath, I said. Lightning struck the band. Flames erupted. A burst of heat. The hall shattered, gods thrown back. Zeus roared, but the band glowed, indestructible. I raised my voice. All gods swear. One by one they knelt. Hera, Poseidon, Demeter, Hestia, Athena, Apollo, Artemis, Ares reluctantly, but still, Hermes swiftly, softly. Even Zeus hesitated, fist tight. Then finally he knelt. His hand touched the band. The thunder stilled. I swear. His voice cracked. I nodded. It was done. The temple walls groaned. Statues trembled. The sky stilled. Silence. Then applause. Whispers. Devotion. Fear. I did not smile. I tasted ash. Afterwards, in the corridors, I overheard cooks whisper, Queen Hera will guide us all. Priests spoke of my name first, but I knew the bargain I made. Power had come, but at a cost. That night, I went to the forge. Hephaestus awaited, smoldering bronze glowing in the shadows. He spoke few words. You did it. I did. He offered me a hammer, light but weighty. Use it wisely. I took it. He spoke again. The serpent stirs. My heart thundered. Yes, I whispered. That bargain was not made alone. He nodded, then vanished behind molten gates. I walked to the outer balcony and looked across the sky, silent, calm. But inside me, the storm had begun. I spoke softly. I will be Olympus. The wind answered. They sang my name that night. Across Olympus, hymns echoed in marble halls. They called me Queen Eternal, Judge of Oaths, Mother of Order. But I sat alone beneath the stars, staring at the hammer Hephaestus had given me. My fingers traced the curve of the bronze handle, a tool for shaping, a weapon for breaking, and I was both now. Why do you stare so long? Hestia's voice was soft, like the last ember of a dying hearth. I didn't turn, because the stars don't lie. She stepped closer, but they don't answer either. I stood. He gave her his legacy, Hestia, Athena. He whispers to the winds that she shall rule in his stead. She is not his daughter alone. No, I said sharply. She was born from his skull, not my womb, not my heart. She placed a hand on my arm, nor mine, but she bears wisdom, not pride. She bears his name, and so does Olympus. I pulled away. Let her feel the bite of a god's wrath. Let her know what it means to bleed from a throne not earned. Hera, I have bled enough for them all. I left her silence behind and walked to my garden. Roses curled toward me, petals trembling. They knew. Even the flowers feared my grief. That night I summoned pain, not with a scream, not with a tear, but with a breath. I name you Eris, I whispered into the dark. And she came. She took form in shadow first, coils of smoke and wind, then flesh, soft and cold. Her eyes were fireless stars. She looked up at me, child of my sorrow. Mother, she asked, voice crackling like broken ice. I touched her cheek. You are not made of love. She tilted her head. Then what am I? Grief, I whispered. You are my rage, given shape. Eris smiled, lips thin and cruel. What must I do? You will walk among mortals and bring war. No, I said, voice sharp. You will bring doubt. She giggled. That is the better poison. In the days that followed, I watched from the sky as Eris descended. Cities turned cold beneath her steps. Brothers turned on brothers. Queens slit their kings' throats in the dark. But one city stood. Athens, Athena's city. Why won't it fall? Eris asked me one morning as she curled around my throne. Because she is watching. She is you without pain. No, I said, she is me before pain. I sent serpents next, born of the old world, of scales and storm. Find the girl with gray eyes, I commanded them. Strike her silence, shatter her courage. They slithered through olive groves, through temple doors, through sacred soil. But she stood waiting. Athena did not run. She did not scream. She raised her spear and struck them down one by one. And when she stood over their writhing bodies, she looked up, and she saw me. No words, no curse, just eyes meeting across sky and stone. And in her gaze, I saw not defiance, but sorrow. Why do you hate me? Her voice rang in my skull, clear as a temple bell. I don't hate you, I whispered. I hate that I lost the part of me you still carry. That night, I walked the halls of Olympus again. The fires burned low. Only one voice met me. She grows into power well, said Apollo, perched beneath his golden harp. She does, I admitted. He plucked a string. But you created power, Hera. You bore it, shaped it. You are not forgotten. No, I said, just replaced. You fear what she means to Zeus. I fear what she means to me. He stood, then speak with her. I sent serpents, then send words. I laughed bitterly. I am not the goddess of reconciliation. Then become her, he said gently, or become the storm you fear. He left me with silence and string echoes. I returned to my garden. Eris sat by the roses, stroking petals into ash. She does not break, she murmured. No, then you must. I looked at her, child of my grief. Her eyes glinted. She was no daughter of joy. What do you want, Eris? To dance at the fall of Olympus. You will not. I already do. I stepped closer. You serve me. I serve your pain, Mother. As long as you hurt, I live. But when you heal, she touched her chest, I vanish. My breath caught. You are the serpent. She grinned, and the mirror. I walked away before the ache in my chest grew sharp enough to scream. The next day, I visited Athena's temple in secret, veiled in shadow. I watched her kneel before a statue, not of herself, but of me. She whispered, I don't want his throne. I want peace. My heart fractured, and I spoke aloud, then take it. She turned sharply, her spear raised. Then her gaze softened. You came. I nodded. You sent monsters. Yes. You sent storms. Yes. And now, I send truth. She stood, shoulders strong. Will you strike me? No. Will you curse me? I already did. She approached, face to face. I do not want war. Nor do I said. Then why must we be enemies? Because we are women in a world ruled by men, I said. And they made us fight for a single throne. She lowered her spear. I never asked for it. I never gave it. Silence stretched between us. Then I removed the veil. She gasped, not from fear, but sorrow. Your eyes, they once held light, I said. They still can. I stepped back. This is not forgiveness. No, she said. This is understanding. We parted. No promise, no oath, but the storm between us broke. I returned to Olympus that night and sat beside Zeus. He did not speak. He simply stared at the stars. Will she take your place? I asked. He nodded. Eventually. And me. You were always greater than a throne, he said. I almost believed him, but I knew power is never shared, only shifted. And though I had softened, I had not surrendered. In the shadows behind my throne, Eris whispered, You are not done yet. I closed my eyes, breathed deep, and said, No, but I am not who I was either. Athena stood untouched in the wind I had summoned. The mortals of Athens lit fires in her name, and she blessed them with olive trees and wisdom. I had cursed the soil beneath their feet, sent sickness in the wells and snakes in the grain. Yet the city did not crumble. It rose. It bloomed because of her. And I was left watching from above, a crown heavy with bitterness, my hands still warm with magic I no longer recognized. Eris sat beside me on the cloud's edge. She dangled her bare feet through the mist, giggling as lightning cracked below. She didn't scream, Eris said. You hoped she would. I hoped she would falter, I whispered. Eris tilted her head. She reminds you of yourself. No, I said too quickly. She reminds me of what I was supposed to be. You could still become it. No, I said again. It's far too late for that. Thunder rumbled in the east, low and long, like a warning bell. The skis knew me well. They knew my rage before I did. I rose from the clouds, silencing the air around me. My robes snapped in the wind. My feet did not touch the earth, and yet I carried the weight of it in my bones. I returned to Olympus, not to the throne room, not to the gathering hall of gods and petty laughter. I went to the chamber no one dared enter, the room where oaths were made and broken, where old pacts bled into stone, and the past was not forgotten. The doors creaked open at my breath. Inside, the walls were covered with sigils of ash and bronze, oaths of old, etched in divine flame. I stood before the central flame and spoke his name. Zeus. He appeared in the smoke, not in flesh, but in essence, a crackle of golden light and arrogance. You call me like a priestess calls fire, he said. I am no priestess, I replied. I am your wife. He smiled like thunder. You have always been more. Have I asked. More than a womb for your heirs. More than the goddess you parade when it suits Olympus. He stepped forward, though his body was still mist and spark. You're angry. I am not angry, I said. I am the storm you created. There was silence between us. The flame hissed. A memory echoed in the walls, our wedding song, once so sweet, now warped by time and grief. Zeus spoke at last. You cannot change what has been done, but I can shape what comes next. He frowned. Do not threaten me, Hera. I do not threaten, I said coldly. I promise. He vanished. The smoke dissolved, but the fire remained, burning bluer now. Colder, hungrier. Later that night, I found myself standing on the edge of Olympus, where the clouds thinned and the stars dared to listen. Hephaestus stood near the forge, his hands covered in soot. He was shaping a blade, its hilt adorned with a serpent's spine. Is it for war? I asked. He did not look up. Everything we forge now is. I need your help. He paused, only for a breath, before returning to the blade. Will it hurt, Father? I didn't answer. He sighed. Then I will help. I walked to him, placing my hand on his shoulder. You are not a tool, Hephaestus. No, he said, but I was born of you and cast down by him. That makes me something sharp. We worked in silence. Metal hissed in divine water. Sparks danced in our silence like angry stars. I summoned Hermes next. He appeared as always, too fast, too clever, too curious. You want something from me, he said before I could speak. I want you to deliver a message. To who? To everyone. His eyebrows rose. You're calling a council. No, I said. I am declaring one. Hermes grinned. This will be fun. It will be war. The next morning, Olympus trembled. I wore robes of white, but I wove storm clouds into the hem. My hair was crowned in lightning. My voice rang across the marble halls with the force of 10,000 prayers. The gods gathered slowly, hesitantly. They took their seats, as they always had Apollo beside Athena, Poseidon towering with damp salt in his beard, Artemis frowning from the edge, Demeter cloaked in vines. Even Hades came, uninvited, curious. Zeus sat last, He made no show of power, no thunder, no charm. He simply looked at me, as if seeing me for the first time. "Hera," he said. I did not smile. "This is not about you, isn't it?" I turned to the assembly. "Olympus has rotted from within. We have grown fat on worship, blind to justice. We speak of oaths, yet we break them in private chambers. We name mortals foolish and gods infallible. But we are the liars. We are the tyrants." Murmurs, shifting robes, nervous glances. I have borne children into this broken world. I have watched them suffer. I have watched us suffer. And my voice faltered, only for a heartbeat. "I will not be silent anymore." Athena rose. "And what do you propose, Queen of Olympus?" "I propose judgment," I said. "Not from Zeus, not from the fates, but from us. From those who still remember what we were meant to be." Apollo leaned forward. "A trial." "Yes." Zeus laughed softly. "You would try a god." "No," I said. "I would try a king." He stood. "Then do it. Show them what justice looks like in your hands." His voice boomed. A challenge, a dare. But I saw fear in his eyes. He knew I had changed. I was no longer the girl with veiled fury. I was the storm, unveiled. The trial began that night, not in a court of marble, but in the open sky, beneath the constellations shaped by our ancestors. Each god spoke, some with venom, some with reverence, most with weariness. Hephaestus stood first. He threw me from the heights because I was not perfect. I walked in fire until I found my strength. Demeter followed. He broke the seasons to chase a nymph. Crops died for his pleasure. Even Hermes, sly as he was, spoke. He makes messengers of us all, carrying lies, dressed as commands. When it was my turn, I did not scream. I did not cry. I simply said, "I once loved a storm. I thought it could shelter me. But storms do not protect. They devour." Zeus listened. For the first time, he did not interrupt. He sat as the wind howled around him, silent beneath the weight of his own legacy. The stars did not blink. The fates did not appear. But the gods looked to me, and I knew they were waiting for me to choose. Justice, mercy, vengeance, power. The sky did not split, but my soul did. I closed my eyes, breathed deep, and whispered, "This is not the end." It was the only sentence I knew to be true. My thunder did not strike that night. Not yet. I returned to Olympus draped in silence, with lightning nesting in my veins. The halls were still as temples, every stone echoing with the ghosts of my restraint. I passed Apollo's chamber. He turned away. I passed Hestia's hearth. The flames dimmed. Even the wind in the garden dared not speak my name. They knew. The gods always know before they admit. Only Hermes met my gaze. "You've changed, Lady Hera." "I was never what he told you I was," I said. He tilted his head, like a bird sensing a coming quake. "What will you do?" "Not what I must, what I was made for." I did not wait for him to reply. The words felt foreign in my own mouth, as though spoken by the woman I had buried long ago. The girl who once looked to the Moirai with wonder. Now I saw them for what they were, puppeteers, and I no longer their doll. Later that night, I called for Hephaestus. He came limping, soot-streaked, bearing his hammer like a scepter of ash. Mother, the word always stabbed. You know why I summoned you, I said, voice low. He set the hammer down, resting it against his thigh. The storm in you, it's louder than the forge. I need a gift, I said, not a trinket, a weapon. He did not ask for whom, only nodded, for Zeus, for the lie that wears his face. He closed his eyes. And what shape shall your truth take? I stepped close. A throne that bends only to justice, a prison that no god may escape. Hephaestus did not flinch. Then I will shape it in fire. As he turned to leave, I said quietly, and one more thing. I will need chains. He paused. Chains for a god. For a king, I said, no longer a husband. 2 nights passed. Zeus returned to Olympus wrapped in gold, with the scent of fresh rain and sea salt, a perfume Thetis once wore. I stood at the gates. You stand here like a sentinel, he said, laughing. Have you missed me? I smiled. It did not touch my eyes. I have watched the skis in your absence. They have been peaceful. He stepped closer. Come, let us not waste breath on storms. Come inside. I followed. I let him kiss my brow. Let him forget that I had become the lightning itself. The feast that followed was a pantomime. Dionysus poured wine from his endless jar. Artemis did not look me in the eye. Athena sat rigid, her mouth tight, her gaze flicking between me and her father. And still he laughed. Zeus laughed as though the heavens weren't trembling. Until I rose. My family, I said, my beloved gods, we have gathered too long in silence. Let us speak of oaths, of crowns, of storms. A hush fell. Only the goblets dared to tremble. Zeus tilted his head. What is this? My reckoning, I said, with a flick of my hand. The chains Hephaestus forged fell from the ceiling, alive with divine fire, etched in every tongue of truth. They wound themselves around Zeus before he could blink. He thundered, "You dare." I must. He struggled. Lightning cracked the marble floors, but the chains held. Poseidon rose. "Release him, Hera. You who have broken oaths beneath the waves," I said. "Sit down." He did. Zeus's eyes burned. "You think the council will side with you? I do not ask for sides. I demand judgment." I turned to Athena. "Daughter of wisdom, speak. Has justice been served in Olympus?" She stood slowly, her voice cut like cold iron. "No." Then to Apollo. "Son of light, do you see a righteous throne before you?" He bowed his head, "Not as it stands." Hestia alone did not answer. She looked only at the fire, weeping silently. And then I spoke to the fates, not with voice, but with will. "I will not be your puppet," I said into the stars. "I choose not your threads, I spin my own. The skis cracked, the wind howled, but no hand came to stop me. Zeus knelt not by choice, but by force, bound in chains not of bronze, but of consequence. I looked into his eyes. You called me your queen, then made me your shadow. You were made for wrath, he spat. No, I was forged by betrayal. I turned from him then, not in triumph, but sorrow. For at that moment, I did not feel the thunder, only silence, only the echo of the girl I once was lost in the loom of prophecy. Later, I stood alone at the edge of the world. Olympus behind me, stars above, wind lifting my hair like a crown of flame. Hermes appeared. It is done, he said. No, I whispered. It has only begun. Will he be freed? I said nothing. Then what now, Lady of Storms? I looked into the void. Now, I learn how to rule without fury, or be consumed by it. I am Hera, goddess of marriage, yes, but I am also the storm, and the storm remembers everything. I stood at the head of Olympus's hall, no longer draped in bridal white, but in storm-dark robes woven with thunder's shimmer. I had risen not as Zeus's bride, but as his equal. The gods around me were quiet. They watched. They waited. Poseidon stepped forward, sea-wet linen clinging to his shoulders. The tide has turned, he said, his voice deep as ocean trenches. I stand with you. Athena appeared beside him, spear in hand and blade skill matched by wisdom. I stand where truth commands, not bloodline. They both raised their hands, then lowered, joined in silent solidarity. Others followed: Demeter, Artemis, Hestia. Even Hermes hovered uncertainly at the edge. Zeus's throne was empty. He had not yet arrived. Behind me, the chains Hephaestus forged glowed. I looked at the hem of my robe, feeling the crackle of power I had claimed. No more shadows, no more silence. Zeus arrived at last. He hovered in gold, thunderclouds his cloak, fury his crown. Hera, he said, breath low, what have you done? I met his gaze. What you have done. He stepped forward, light blazing around him. You betray me. I betray tyranny. He laughed, sound like mountains collapsing. Then I shall bury you beneath it. I lifted my chin. Let my bones teach you mercy. He glanced at the assembled gods. They follow you. They followed you too long, I answered. Then the coup began. Athena soared forward, asked the gods, will Olympus continue on false promises? Poseidon raised the waters beneath the temple, flooding the floor in blue waves that lapped at Zeus's feet. I called the chains down golden, unbreakable, alive. They coiled around Zeus as he slept, binding his arms, his legs, his thunder. He tried to roar. Lightning flickered weakly. The chains tightened. Dining chairs rattled. Candles flickered. The gods held their breath. Poseidon's water froze in mid-wave. Athena's spear hung in the air. I stepped forward, voice echoing, be still, king. He struggled, release me. I shook my head. No longer, not while fear lives unchallenged. He looked to Poseidon. You did this. He nodded. No longer shall I obey his mercy. Zeus's eyes found Athena. And you? She stood firm. Olive trees will grow in his absence, not discord. He turned to me, breathing thunder. You would kill me. I would strip you. His laugh was thin. And what then? I looked at the chains around him. Then we begin again. The hall trembled. The other gods drew in. Zeus snarled, This is rebellion. No, I said, this is reckoning. Lightning crackled at the chain's ends. Zeus glared, then judge. I stepped forward and spoke starkly. Zeus, once king, now captive, answer. Why did you break oaths? Why did you burn mountains to chase fleeting love? Why did you let the storms you whispered control you? He did not answer, only glared. I added, Poseidon has borne the brine of your vacillation. Athena has carried the weight of your wisdom, twisted into war. We endure your absence and your fury. You can no longer claim our loyalty through fear. Poseidon raised water, circling Zeus's form. Your rule drowns us. Athena added, your strength blinds us. Hephaestus hammered at lightning-thin chains, strengthening their hold. Zeus shrieked, I am the storm. I met his cry, so am I. He thrashed. Lightning snapped free, struck chandelier glass, but the chains held firm. Then Thetis appeared, rising from a blade of moonlight, eyes like storm-cold seas. She approached with regal grace. Hera, she said softly, release him. I turned, cloak swirling. Why? He told me no mercy. Because myself endured your betrayal. Because he is the storm and the sea. Because Olympus cannot survive without both. I pressed my hand to the chains. They glowed. He will return, I said, voice shaking. Your son will drown us all. Better a free god than a caged one, she replied. Mercy renames tyranny. Athena's gaze flicked between us. I considered the chains. Zeus's thunder faded to hum. Poseidon's waves froze mid-pulse. The entire temple hushed. I closed my eyes. Release him. The chains uncoiled. Zeus collapsed to knees. Rain clouds parted overhead, letting moonlight fall. He looked at Thetis, then at me. Mortal mercy, he said, voice broken. But he was no longer king. I stepped forward. Hera, he whispered. I swallowed. You called me queen, but that word was never free. He rose to his feet. What now? You reign as king in shadow. I will reign in thunder. He regarded me with pain in his eyes. You will not break me. I will not let you break them again. He flinched. Zeus stepped away. Thunderbrand dimmed. Feet heavy, brows furrowed. He left Olympus. I stood alone, beneath the empty throne. Athena came, pressed a hand to my shoulder. You did not lose the storm, she said. I didn't. Poseidon's footsteps followed. You gained something more, he said quietly. Named after your judgment. I raised my hand. Lightning arced across my fingers, not as weapon, but as promise. Days passed, Olympus shifted. No feasts, no illusions of peace. The gods rebuilt. Lamps were lit with my lightning instead of his. Temples worshipped my name, Queen of Judgment, Stormbearer. I sat on the throne once empty. Hands rested in my lap, stormcloud cloak trailing. Hestia lit the hearth beside me. I looked at Athena. She gave olive branch, not a crown. Poseidon placed a conch shell, not a scepter. They offered symbols of balance. I accepted. They asked no oath, no surrender, only recognition. That night, I climbed to Olympus's peak. The sky opened. I raised my arms. Lightning followed. Rain fell across me. I did not flinch. A voice echoed in wind and thunder. You are Hera, Stormbearer. Haven't you earned your place? I whispered to the sky. I am Hera, not wife, never victim. I am the storm. And in that silence, Olympus trembled again, not from king's fury, but from queen's awakening. Olympus was different now. My storm had cleansed the halls. Gone were whispers of rebellion and fear. In their place, determination. Zeus had fled. The gods rebuilt in silence. The air crackled with unspoken questions. What now? Who leads? What shapes our future? I sat upon the throne I had claimed. Lightning danced at my fingertips. Beside me, Athena polished her spear. Poseidon traced waves in his palm. Hestia tended the hearth. Hermes hovered, words perched on his tongue. I let them wait. Poseidon broke the silence. We stand on a new dawn. Yes, I said softly. But every dawn carries the weight of what came before. Athena's voice was calm. The fates do not intervene. I freed Zeus myself, I reminded them. I remade this world, and yet, Hestia looked at me through steady flame. What do you need? I paused. I need the last thread, the one not spun, not broken, not yet. Athena nodded. The prophecy of the storm. Poseidon's brow furrowed. It speaks of a child. I closed my eyes. Born of no womb, raised in shadow, destined to shake Olympus. Zeus had whispered it to me once. It was not mine, but I carried its weight. Hermes took a breath. It's time to seek her. I rose slowly. Then we begin again. The gods gathered at Olympus's edge, staring beyond the mortal realm, beyond the sky. No one spoke Zeus's name, but he lingered in all we did. Athena stepped beside me. We will seek balance. Poseidon nodded. I will feel for her in the ocean's currents. Hermes drew sigils in the air. I will carry word to distant kingdoms. Hestia blessed our path with firelight. I touched each of their hands. We will not fail. I descended first, alone, to the river Achelous. The water shimmered in moonlight. I asked the river otters, the white-capped waves, any sign. Child of storm, I whispered. The water stilled. A figure emerged, a woman, cloaked in dripping moss, with eyes of storm gray. She knelt, Queen Hera. You know me. I feel your thunder. I heard it even when darkness fell. I studied her. Who are you? She touched the water. I am the river's daughter, born of flood and whisper. I have a name forming in thunder. I held my breath. The girl rose, eyes wide, hair wet. She spoke. I am named Bryn. My heart thundered. Why do you come? She asked. To know truth. She tilted her head. Truth is heavy. I carry heavier. She looked at the water, then me. You free me. How? She smiled, small and fierce. You disrupt the currents that drown me. I knelt. Tell me. She hesitated. I carry the storm's last echo. You are the child of prophecy. She narrowed her eyes. They told me I was cursed. I nodded. They lied. Athena and Poseidon arrived as dawn cracked in sky and water. Athena spoke first. Bryn. She nodded. Poseidon knelt. Rivers echo. He gazed at her with ancient longing. Hermes arrived moments later. At last, he held a scroll with Zeus's seal, but it was broken in two. They know, Bryn whispered. I said softly, we will protect you. We walked back, gods and goddess, mortal child at our side. The halls of Olympus trembled, changed, under the weight of new purpose. Zeus's absence was a wound, but Bryn's presence a promise. In the Hall of Thrones, I stood before them all. Bryn stood with me, Athena at her right, Poseidon to her left. Hermes hovered. Hestia watched the fire beneath my throne. I spoke, voice clear. This is our future. Not another king, not another reign, not a throne built on fear, but one built on truth. Applause rose in silence, but the gods bowed. Zeus returned at last, not in fury, not in thunder, but in defeat. He knelt before the throne, before me. Bryn is hers, I said, the last thread, the storm's echo. He bowed his head. I have lost, but not you, please. My gaze did not soften. It became storm. You lost Olympus when you broke oaths. This empire of clarity is ours together, or not at all. He looked at Bryn. She did not smile. He turned to me. Forgive me. I clenched my fists. He had once been thunder itself. Now he was nothing. Silence filled the hall. I lifted my hand. Lightning danced at my fingertips. Zeus. He flinched. Kneel. He knelt again. I give Olympus to its people, I declared. To its gods, its mortals, its storms. Not to a man's name. The air hummed. I leaned forward. Do you swear? He closed his eyes. I swear. I held his gaze for a heartbeat longer. Then I released him. I signaled to Poseidon. He dropped tendrils of ocean, current around them both, binding not with chains, but with promise. Then I turned to Bryn, queen of this new dawn. She regarded me, then Athena, then Hermes, then the flame in my eyes. She nodded. Months passed. Olympus rebuilt. Temples of balance. Choirs sang of justice. Mortals whispered of Hera Stormbearer. Bryn's name joined ours in prayer. I stood beside the throne, no longer alone. Athena knelt at my side. Poseidon's waves circled the halls. Hermes carried messages across time. Hestia's hearth never dimmed. I touched the bronze circlet Hephaestus forged. I touched Bryn's hand. I whispered, "We came from shadow." She squeezed my fingers. Then I looked to the sky. Clouds gathered, but instead of thunder, rain fell. Soft, gentle, I walked in the garden Athena planted for mortals and gods. Wildflowers and olive trees bloomed. I heard Bryn laughing with Hestia's daughters. A resounding peace, still tinged with storm. I sat by the hearth that night, alone. I poured wine from a goblet he once touched. I tasted bitterness, then honey. Olympus will remember this. They will whisper, "She became the storm," and the calm after. I touched the circlet once more, then laid it at my feet. I spoke into the quiet. My path was forged with lightning, blood, love, and fire. I paused, but it ends here. I will not reign forever, but I will not fade into shadow. I am Hera, storm and calm, queen forged, unbroken. I warned you, Athena whispered, her voice edged in marble. Zeus never forgets a betrayal, and neither do I answered, the chains still burning my wrists. But I did not betray him. I only became what he feared. Poseidon stood below me, arms crossed. His trident shimmered with sea mist. You led us. You stood when none dared. For that, I will remember your name with respect. Respect, I laughed bitterly, the sound hollow in the high air where I hung. Then, why do I swing here, brother, bound in gold, while Zeus walks free? He is still the king. Then the throne is broken. Lightning split the horizon, and the clouds around me trembled. My screams had ceased days ago, or perhaps eons. Time bled strange in Olympus. My body ached, but my spirit did not bend. I watched them, all of them, pass below me. Silent, guilt in their eyes, none brave enough to speak. Except one. Mother, the voice was hesitant, fractured like a child afraid of thunder. I opened my eyes. Hephaestus stood on the peak below, his limp dragging with each step. You shouldn't be here, I whispered. I made these chains, he said, not with pride, but with sorrow. Father ordered it. I forged them strong enough to hold titans. And yet here I am. He looked up, tears brimming behind ash-stained lashes. Let me break them. No, my voice hardened. This punishment is mine. Let it be carved into Olympus. Let them remember what happens when a goddess dares to rise. But you led the rebellion to save them, to stop him. They did not want saving. They wanted silence. Below, Apollo played his lyre, as if to drown my suffering in song. Artemis did not look up at all. Demeter wept behind olive trees. And Hestia placed a single flame beneath the peak, never letting it go out. Days passed, or centuries. The sun rose and set, indifferent to my torment. Then she came. Thetis, I rasped, hatred curling in my throat like smoke. She knelt on the rock, her sea-born hair soaked in regret. I never meant to betray you. You freed him. I had no choice. He would have drowned the world. I spit to the wind. You had a choice. We all did. You chose him. She reached toward me, but the chain flared with fire, repelling her. I was afraid. So was I. I am sorry. No, I said, you are a coward. Thunder rumbled as Zeus approached, cloaked in shadow and arrogance. Have you come to gloat? I asked, my voice raw but unyielding. He stepped closer, eyes blazing gold. I came to offer release. Release, I sneered. And what must I kneel for this time? He ignored the barb. Olympus needs you. Olympus abandoned me. The gods whisper of unrest. Mortals turn from us. The world is shifting. Let it burn, I said. You are still my queen. I was never your queen. I was your conquest. For a moment, something cracked in him. A flicker of shame, regret. No, it was only the thunder's echo. He raised his hand. The chains loosened, slithering like serpents from my skin. I collapsed onto the rock, breathless, broken, but not defeated. Go, he said, return to your throne. I no longer sit beside you. Then stand where you will, he said coldly, and vanished into sky. Hephaestus reached for me again. Come, mother. I pulled myself upright. My feet bled. My eyes did not. Where is Eris? She waits below. Good. I descended Olympus, not as a wife, not as a goddess in chains, but as a storm unbound. In the lower realms, Eris danced through shadows. Mother, she sang, you bring thunder to the soil. You see what they made of me, I asked. I see what you became. We walked through fields of cinders, trees blackened by divine fire. Mortals whispered in fear. Prayers fell silent. They fear me now, I said. They worship fear. I did not ask to become this. You became it anyway. I found the mirror Hephaestus once forged, the bronze prophecy still uncracked. In it, I saw Olympus burning. I saw myself, crowned in light and fury. They will never love me. No, Eris said, but they will follow. I clenched my fists. Then let them follow a goddess who does not bend. The council of gods convened days later. Zeus sat atop his throne, colder now, more distant. Poseidon stood beside him, silent. Athena stood behind him, watchful. I entered last. Every eye turned. Even Hades, called forth briefly from the underworld, looked upon me with a nod. She returns, Apollo said softly. Zeus raised his hand. Let her speak. I looked at them all, my brothers, sisters, daughters, rivals. I do not come to beg, I said, nor to forgive. Hermes tilted his head. Then why come? To remind you, I said, what happens when power forgets balance? When kings become tyrants? When queens are bound for speaking truth? Athena's eyes flickered. What do you propose? I will not rule beside Zeus, but I will rule. I will be the voice of law, of consequence. I will be the chain that binds injustice, not with love, but with fear. interfere if I must. And if we deny you? Asked Ares. I turned to him slowly. Then you will learn what storms I have yet to unleash. Zeus said nothing. He stared at me as if seeing me anew. You have changed. No, I whispered. I have returned. The vote was silent. The gods raised their hands, one by one. Athena, Poseidon, Hestia, even Hermes. Only Ares refused. Zeus did not vote, but he did not stop them. And so it was, not queen beside the king, but goddess above vengeance, oaths, and divine punishment. They built a new hall beside Olympus, not higher, not lower, but apart. That was where I ruled. Eris became my shadow. Hephaestus forged my throne from the metals that once bound me. Mortals prayed to me with trembling lips, not for love, not for marriage, but for justice, for wrath, for truth. And in my silence, Olympus learned to listen. Do you still believe justice exists among gods? Athena asked me, her voice colder than her bronze helm. I stood on the crumbled steps of Olympus, my chains shattered at my feet. The sky had not stopped weeping since my fall, and yet I did not flinch. I had no tears left. I believe only in fire, I said, and what it leaves behind. Athena looked at me as one looks upon a battlefield, both with reverence and dread. Then, what now, Queen of Ruin? The halls were quiet when I returned. Not a god dared meet my gaze. Hestia lowered her eyes. Hermes vanished into smoke. Even Ares, once full of roar and sword, gave me space. Zeus was not on the throne. I stood before it. I did not sit. Not yet. He fears you, Poseidon said as he stepped beside me, the scent of the ocean still clinging to his silver beard. Let him, I answered. For once in eternity, let him understand the chill of power lost. Poseidon chuckled bitterly. Power never stays lost. It merely changes shape. Then I will become its new form. I visited the mortal world that night, cloaked in storm. Below me, cities slept. Temples still bore my name, but their prayers had turned to whispers, and their sacrifices were fewer. You abandoned them, I murmured. No, a voice answered behind me. You abandoned yourself. I turned. Apollo stood with his golden bow across his back, eyes dimmed. You mourn him, I said. I mourn what we were, he replied. Then mourn quietly. I am not your sister of peace. You were once. No, I whispered. I only pretended to be. My daughter came to me in the smoke of a dying battlefield. Eris, beautiful and broken, with her black veil and cruel grin. Mother, she said sweetly, shall we burn them all now? No. Her smile faded. Why not? Because I do not wish to rule over ashes. You already do. The council was called, not by Zeus, by me. Gods arrived, dragging their arrogance and fears like shadows. Demeter with soil-stained hands, Apollo silent, Artemis furious, Hermes laughing to hide the tremble in his knees. Athena watched from above, standing not beside me, but not against me either. Zeus arrived last. He entered with thunder, as always. But this time, the storm did not kneel for him. He looked at me. I did not blink. "My wife," he said. I raised a hand. "No, not anymore. You forget yourself." "No," I said. "I have remembered." The gods shifted. Zeus laughed, a hollow sound. "And what shall you do, Hera? Rule alone?" "If I must." "You cannot," he said. "Olympus was never meant to be yours." "It was never meant to be only yours," I replied. He stepped forward. I did not move. I could destroy you. I could have destroyed you. But I chose chains. Do not test my mercy again. There was silence. Then Hestia rose. "We cannot go on like this," she said. "Gods at war, mortals lost. We have broken the balance." "It was never balanced," Athena said. "Only hidden." "I propose a new order," I said. "A queen's order," Zeus sneered. "A council's," I replied. "No throne shall rise higher than the others." The gods murmured. Zeus spat. "You speak of unity, but you hunger for power." I met his gaze. "I speak of survival." Later, I stood alone in the Garden of Olives. It was there I had first wept as his bride. The trees remembered. A voice came from behind. "I voted with you." I turned. Athena stood with her owl on her shoulder, watching me like a judge. "I know," I said, "not out of love, but out of sense. That is the only way we have left." She looked at the sky. "Do you still believe in fate?" "I believe in choice," I said. "Even gods pay for choice." "Then let us pay." That night, the stars trembled, and so did Olympus, for the gods had agreed. No longer would one sit above the rest. We would rule together, or not at all. But nothing ends without cost. Zeus vanished the next morning, gone into shadow, thunder trailing behind him. Some say he retreated to the ends of the earth. Others say he waits for Olympus to fracture again. I do not look for him. I have no need to, for power does not sit in one man's hand. It breathes in every god who dares to rise. Mortals sing of me now with different words, not as Zeus's wife, but as Hera Stormborn, Hera Chainbreaker, Hera the Flame of Order. I do not smile when I hear them, but I do not weep either. "Will you ever love again?" Hestia asked one day. I looked at the hearth. Its fire was steady. "I will not love as I once did," I said, "but I will never be unloved again. That is not the same. It is better." Eris dances in the shadows of battlefields, whispering chaos. Hephaestus crafts weapons the world is not yet ready for. Hermes plays both sides always. Athena teaches mortals how to rise without gods. And I watch, I guard, I remember. And when the sky cracks and the old gods rise from their graves, I will rise too, for I am not only a goddess, I am every broken vow, every chained scream, every woman who learned to become a storm when silence no longer served her. I stand atop Olympus now, not above, not below. Equal, they still fear me. Good, they still need me. Better, they still whisper my name in the wind. Hera, and I answer with thunder, with flame, with justice. At last, they think I sit in silence, that I have been tamed. But thrones are not symbols of peace. They are made of teeth, and mine, it is a throne of thorns. Every vine is a vow broken, every bloom a wound healed without kindness. I sit upon it not as bride, not as lover, but as what I have always been becoming. Once I believed in love. Now I guard what it cost me. I feel his eyes before I hear his voice. You are colder than the sea winds, Zeus says behind me. Yet you burn hotter than my lightning. You taught me fire, I answer, not turning. Then scorned me for holding it. He steps closer, the echo of his feet hollow against marble. Our marriage still binds us. No, I say, rising slowly. Our war wears the mask of marriage. We speak vows with blades beneath our tongues. And yet you remain, he says. And yet, I whisper, so do you. We are gods of rituals, he and I. We dance around ruins and call it tradition. But the mortals see clearer than we ever did. They pray to me not for love, but for endurance. Not for passion, but for loyalty. And when they cry out in rage, betrayed by those who promised them forever, they call my name. I bless what you have betrayed, I tell Zeus. I guard what you defile. He scoffs. You cannot hold Olympus by bitterness alone. No, I say, voice steady. I hold it by truth. And in that moment, I know he hears it. The end, not of Olympus, but of us. Athena stands beside me now when we pass through the great halls. Not as daughter, not quite as friend, but as something fiercer, a bond forged in war. She once feared I would destroy what she built. Now she knows I would bleed to protect it. She taught me strategy. I taught her how to wield silence like a sword. Hephaestus, my broken child, no longer limps. His fire feeds the weapons of justice, not vengeance. He builds temples to those ignored, the faithful wives, the abandoned sons, the mothers turned to stone by grief. He never says, thank you. He does not need to. I see it in the gold he leaves on my doorstep, shaped like shields. Eris sings at my gates. Her lullabies are sharp. She dances with mortals and stirs their battles. She is chaos, yes, but she is my chaos. I no longer hush her. I let her scream, because sometimes a scream is holier than a hymn. Do you see now? I do not wear the crown for beauty. I wear it because no one else survived the fire long enough to claim it. In the mirror of bronze Hephaestus once gave me, I see not a goddess. I see a storm in the shape of a woman. My eyes carry centuries. My mouth remembers every name, every lie, every plea spoken in the dark. I do not forgive easily, but when I do, it is divine. A mortal woman came to my temple last moon. She knelt in silence, tears streaking her face. Do you still believe in love?" she asked me. I knelt beside her. "No," I said, brushing her hair from her eyes. "But I believe in you." She cried harder and left stronger. What is a queen without scars? What is a goddess who has never bled? Do not call me cruel because I punish betrayal. Call me divine because I remember it. Zeus comes to me again, not in thunder, but in shadow. His voice is soft. I miss the girl who smiled at me beneath the myrtle tree. She died, I say, when you named her crown a leash. I have changed. No, I whisper, but I have. He looks at me like a man watching a star he cannot reach, and leaves. This time, I do not watch him go. The throne does not comfort me, but it understands me. It holds my shape now, twisted by truth, carved by defiance, rooted in resolve, and yes, crowned with thorns, but blooming, always blooming. Mortals write songs of Aphrodite's beauty. They write tragedies for Persephone's loss. But my stories, they are warnings carved into stone. Beware the woman who loves with eyes open. She remembers. I remember. I remember Thetis trembling, Semele burning, Callisto hunted, Athena born from cracked skull, my own children cast down, the lies, the oaths, the silk-wrapped daggers. I remember everything, and still I rise. Do you think you understand me now? You do not. You may never. But I am not here to be understood. I am here to endure, to protect, to reign. My temples are quieter now, but those who come, they come with purpose. Mothers who stayed, wives who walked away, lovers who gave more than they ever received. They light candles and do not ask for love. They ask for strength, and I give it freely, because I was forged in the absence of it. Once I was hunted by fate. Now I wear it like armor. I watch the skies for storms, not to run, but to welcome them. Athena asks me sometimes if I regret it, if I would do it differently, if I would choose peace over power. I never answer with words. I lead her to the balcony. We look down at the world, not from above, but among. And I say only, I chose to remain. That is the holiest rebellion of all. My legacy will not be one of sweetness, but it will be one of truth, of survival, of sovereignty. And when the last god falls, when the last flame dies, they will carve my name into stone, not as consort, but as queen. Hera, the one who stayed, the one who fought, the one who dared make her agony into a throne. They knelt when I entered the hall. Not all of them, but enough. They knelt because they remembered, because they had seen my wrath turned to mercy, because they feared what I had become, and yet needed me still. I passed among them, feet dusty from battlefields and temple floors. My robes trailed behind, gleaming like storm clouds at dusk. I felt each whisper push against me like wind tugging at lightning's edge. Hera, Aphrodite said, voice soft as rose petals gray with frost. Will you speak? I stopped, turned to face her. I do not speak of love. She bowed, then speak of survival. I nodded once, harsh and true. Tell me, goddess, do the mortals still call me bride of Zeus? She faltered. Only when they accuse you of softness. Softness, I repeated, becomes a weakness. She lowered her gaze. You have shown us otherwise. I walked on, heading toward the throne of shattered marble. I could have reclaimed it, but I would settle for creation of something new. They build a new council chamber, Athena said, stepping beside me. You will lead. I lead only what must live. She nodded, and what dies? I touched a fallen column, traced its grooves. The lies. Athena's hand found mine. Then let us begin. We emerged into the garden beyond the palace. Curtains of jasmine hung heavy in moonlight. I want you to meet her, I whispered. She watched me stare at the ground. Do you doubt? I asked. She shook her head. Fear. Good, I said. Fear tempers power. We found her near the olive trees. A mortal girl named Lena, kneeling in prayer. Athena stepped forward. Child of lost lineage. She looked up. Tears glinted like stars. I pray for guidance. I did not approach her. Instead, I kneeled where she could see the lightning at my wrist. Guide. She breathed in, goddess. Speak truth, I said, not what pleases Olympus. She studied me. They lie for gods, I will not. I rose slowly, then follow. We walked through city streets. Mortals knelt without asking. Mothers lifted children. Men lowered swords. They saw not the queen, but the judge. Later, I stood on the balcony overlooking Athenians. Lanterns glimmered like earth stars. Lena by my side. They watch you, she said, voice small and steady. I watch them, I said, not for obedience, but for justice. Do you believe they will? She paused. Survive, I finished. Yes, if I do my duty. She nodded, as if she had found meaning in the murmur of my words. Back inside, Athena closed the gates behind us. She studied me. They call you heartless, those who mistake order for fear. You feel something, she pressed. I see it. When we act, we feel, I answered. Then we choose. She lowered her gaze. You have chosen. I studied the hearth, its flames steady, beginning to lap around the embers. I thought of the bride who once knelt before Zeus. She had fire then, not judgment, not power. That girl would have wept at this moment. But I do not weep. A brash knock rattled the doors. A messenger bowed, a plea from Thebes. I looked at Lena. She stiffened. They asked for mercy, the messenger said. They bear gifts of olive oil and grain. I stepped forward. Treat them well, but remind them of their oath. He nodded anxiously and left. Lena watched me. Would you spare them? I smiled, sharp, unexpected. They have not yet tested me. She exhaled. Then you spare. That night, I walked alone again among the jasmine. The air smelled of death and hope. I found Eris dancing, her laughter soft but ragged. She looked at me. You did not send me. I shook my head. I sent you only for those who betray vows. Your stage is for betrayal." She laughed. "They betray all too well." "I know." She stopped dancing and took my hand, a rare gesture, almost sisterly. "You will not be lonely." I shook my head. "I ruled loneliness long ago." Eris nodded. "Then dance for me." She spun. Her laughter echoed like distant thunder. I did not watch her dance, but in the mirror of the court, I saw myself, crowned by suffering, shaped by choice. I whispered to its polished surface, "I am Hera." The next morning, I convened the council. Zeus watched from his exile. He did not stand. Poseidon dipped water into fire and watched it hiss, a new analogy for balance. Demeter brought soil. Artemis brought winged arrows. Hermes stood just behind me, ready to dispatch justice or mercy on my word alone. Athena waited by my side like an ancient oak, unyielding, rooted. I looked at each of them. Then I said, "We will create an oath." A hush fell. They waited. I continued. "All future queens and kings of gods and mortals will swear before me not to use love as chains." Zeus's face darkened. Poseidon nodded once. Hermes scribbled on scrolls. Ares shifted in his seat like a predator. I held their gaze one by one. They could see the truth in my eyes. In a crisp voice, Zeus stood. "You make yourself judge." "A queen judges," I said, "when a king betrays." He laughed, dry, brittle. "And you bind us with your memory." "No," I said, "with ours." He looked at Athena. He looked at Poseidon. He hesitated. Then he bowed. I felt more than lightning that day. I held out my hand. He knelt. I pressed my palm to his head. An electric thrum echoed through Olympus. Then I spoke the oath. I swear. It was silent for a moment. Then a tremor ran beneath the earth, not of judgment, but of relief. I released my hand. The tremor ended. The gods exhaled. The mortal world would remember. Zeus rose. He stepped forward and bowed to me. "My queen." I nodded. I did not forgive him, but I pardoned his oath. The seasons changed. I traveled with Poseidon across the coasts. I walked beneath olive groves with Demeter. Artemis guided the hunts. Hermes carried word to distant lands. Athena taught the new oath in courts and schools. Even Aphrodite offered my name in blessings, not for roses, but for truth. One evening, Hera and daughter sat beneath the moon. Lena, mortal queen, now priestess, offered me a chalice of pure water. I drank and remembered not chills. Athena stood beside her, olive branch in hand. I told Lena, "You will carry the next oath." She nodded. Athena placed the branch in her hair. They left. I watched their silhouettes vanish into jasmine. I returned to the hall. I placed a hand on the royal column. Inscribed, "Here sits the queen who spoke truth to power." Lightning flickered, but no thunder came. All had heard. I walked to the throne of thorns. I sat. Pain still lingered in every needle. I closed my eyes. I spoke to the empty air. I am not the girl who dreamed of roses, but I guard their roots. Silence answered, yet in that silence, Olympus found new breath. I did not smile, but for the first time in centuries, I did not feel my heart ache. I am Hera, queen of Olympus, guardian of vows. I stand not above love, but because of it, my story is not a tragedy. It is a warning, one that echoes in every marriage, every oath, every heart brave enough to bleed. Tell them this: love without respect is a battlefield, and I am its queen. Do you think me cruel? I asked the olive tree that bent under my breath. Do you think I have become what they feared I would? The tree gave no answer, only a whisper through its silver leaves. Long ago, I had prayed beneath trees, prayed to be seen, to be chosen not for prophecy, but for love. That girl, the girl with salt in her hair and the sky in her eyes, was gone. In her place stood the queen. My lady, said Iris, my faithful messenger, kneeling on the marble floor. Another mortal queen begs your blessing. She fears her husband has strayed. I turned my head slowly. And what did you tell her? That you listen, Iris replied. That you do not forget. I closed my eyes. No, I do not forget. Not the girl who burned in her innocence. Not the nymphs turned to trees to escape his hands. Not the vows I held like thorns in my throat while he chased shadow after shadow. I will answer her prayer, I said softly. Not with mercy, with memory. I rose from my throne. The halls of Olympus stretched in silence. The columns no longer gleamed with youth. They bore the weight of time now, and so did I. I walked past murals painted with battles and banquets, where I once smiled beside him, blind to the storm beneath. My fingers brushed a mosaic, the wedding feast of our union. Mortals lighting fires across the world, gods offering gifts, some in joy, others in warning. Marriage is a sacrifice, Hestia once whispered to me. It is a war, I had answered. But now I saw the truth. Marriage is a mirror, and mine had shown me everything I never wanted to see. I stepped into the hall of echoes, a quiet chamber where the gods do not speak, but where their truths are preserved. Whispers linger in the air here, pieces of things said and unsaid, etched into silence. Do you regret it? The wind seemed to ask. I did not answer. Instead, I turned toward the flame, the one Hephaestus forged after I returned him to Olympus. A gift of his bitterness and brilliance, burning blue with divine heat. Within it, I could see what mortals could not, the truth of hearts, the unraveling of oaths. I whispered into the fire, and the fire showed me Zeus. He stood atop Mount Lycaon, surrounded by priests who lit incense in his name. He held his lightning with pride, a symbol of order, of might. Yet I saw the weariness behind his gaze, the hollowness, the doubt. He knew I no longer feared him. He knew I had changed. We had changed. Once he was the sky, and I the earth. Now, we were storm against storm, locked in an endless dance of thunder and silence. I gave you everything, I whispered to the flame. I would have burned the world for your love. And you fed that love to the crows. The flame flared, but it did not answer. Later that evening, I summoned the Morai, Clotho with her spinning hands, Lachesis, the measurer, Atropos, whose scissors gleamed with the silence of endings. You wove me into this, I said. You named me Ruin before I was old enough to speak. Atropos stepped forward. And did you not become it? No, I said. I became choice. Clotho's spindle spun faster. Lachesis tilted her head. You speak of free will, but your choices were forged in pain. You speak of justice, but carry vengeance like a veil. I carry memory, I said, and I will not lay it down. Atropos raised her shears. Then the thread will burn, not break, burn. I stared at her, unflinching. So be it. They vanished into smoke. In the gardens of Olympus, I found Aphrodite among the roses, her laughter light as petals. She looked at me with eyes too ancient for youth. You still wear your crown, she said, and you still believe love is a gift, I replied. She smiled. No, I know it is a weapon. I sat beside her. I envy your belief in beauty. Do not envy me, Hera, she said. You bear the heavier truth, the kind that reshapes mountains. Is that what I am now? I whispered. A mountain. No, you are the storm that split it open. We said nothing after that. We simply watched the roses bloom and bleed. A mortal woman was brought before me soon after. Her name was Lygia. Her husband had taken another to his bed, and her tears ran like rivers down her face. I prayed to you, she sobbed. I gave offerings. I stayed faithful. I stepped down from my throne and lifted her chin. And you think your pain is unseen. She trembled. I do not fix what is broken, I said. I teach the world to see its cracks. You will not be healed, but you will be heard. I gave her a crown of ash and rose thorns. Go, let them see the fire you carry. And she did. In the mirror of the sky, I saw myself, not as I had once been, soft, trusting, filled with sundreams, but as I was now, veiled in thunder, crowned in pain, alive with clarity. My temple stands on the highest peak. Mortals come with questions, offerings, fears. They ask for love, for marriage, for fidelity. I tell them the truth. Love without power is a cage. Marriage without respect is a tomb. But when love and power walk together, they can become gods. Zeus has not touched me in years. He comes to my throne when the council meets. We speak with the same tongue, polite, formal, distant, but the storm between us hums. Sometimes I still dream of him. Not the god he became, but the boy he once was, laughing beneath the fig trees, lightning in his eyes, heart still unspoiled. I dream of what we could have been, and then I wake, and I remember who I am. I do not hate him, but I no longer love him. I rule beside him, but not beneath him. I am Hera, queen not by favor, but by fire. I was forged in betrayal, tempered by prophecy, crowned in defiance. I bless the faithful, I curse the false, and I remember, one day the poets will tell my story. Some will paint me cruel, others divine. Let them. Their scrolls are nothing to the truth. The truth is this: the girl who loved too deeply became the goddess who would not kneel. I carry every scar like a jewel, every betrayal like a banner. I am not a tragedy. I am the lesson, and Olympus, at last, knows my name not as wife, but as warning. I wake at dawn not to birdsong, but to the hum of the council. They assemble before me even before light grazes the marble. Athena stands to my right, olive branch in hand. Poseidon's waves echo soft beneath the hall. Hestia's hearth still burns, and so does the fire in my chest. I step from my throne of thorns. The petals at its base are crushed stone now, faded colors drenched in dew. Each blossom once promised something sweet. Each petal reminds me of what I left behind. Queen Hera, Hermes begins, voice low though his wings glimmer gold. Reports from Byzantium. A minor god claims injustice. Mortals riot in her name. I smile coldly. Let them riot, then let them rebuild with justice. He purses his lips. Some fear your mercy is as sharp as your wrath. I raise an eyebrow. What matters is that they feel both heart and fear. Poseidon speaks then, deep as ocean gloom. We must not break them. Balance our power with restraint. I step closer. I learned restraint when my eyes were opened by betrayal. Athena dips her head. We act wisely together. I nodded, so we shall. Hermes glided forward. Shall I carry your decree? I raised my hand. Yes, but do not send censors. Let truth flow unfiltered. Let mortals judge us. He nodded. Later, I walk the rose garden at sunrise. The petals are wet like tears. I brush their edges with my fingers. One falls in my palm, a single crimson drop. I remember the girl who once danced among these flowers, laughing at love's promise. She's gone. Eris appears from the petals, laughter echoing thin. You mourn. No, I say, I mourn the lie. She smiles like a knife. Do not confuse mercy with weakness. I do not. She steps back. Then let the mortals sow their own fields and taste their own crops. She vanishes in a swirl of petals. That afternoon, I descend to Byzantium alone. The city is still roaring, but under rubble there's new steel and new hope. A woman stands before me, arms raised. Hera, I swear faith to the oath we forged. I gaze at her, her scars and grit reflect my own. Then rise, I whisper. Show me. She offers grain and clay. These are our weapons. We bind ourselves by oath and sweat, not by tears. I study each face in the crowd, not afraid but defiant, not hopeful but determined. You have my blessing, I say softly. Yield not to the fear of gods. The crowd quiets. I feel the tremor of their faith ripple through me like lightning through steel. I rise into air, leaving them looking upward, bound by new purpose. Back in Olympus, Athena greets me. They remember you as truth. I remember love as truth, I say. They misremembered Olympus. She inclines her head. Then we remind them. She glides away. Poseidon finds me next. The sea holds its breath, he says. It waits for your decree, and it shall be heard. Magic hums between us. The waves respond to his call. I whisper to them, hear the vows spoken this day. Honor the oaths sworn by God and mortal. Break them only at your peril. The sea answers with thunderous hush. Evening descends. A feast is prepared. Not for Zeus, he remains in shadow, but for the council and their chosen emissaries. I enter, silent as storm overhead. They sit at the table: Athena, Poseidon, Hestia, Hephaestus, Hermes, Aphrodite. Ares lingers by the hearth soot-coated. They all look at me. I wear no crown tonight, but they feel my presence. I raise a goblet of water to vows. They echo back to vows. Murmurs rise of gratitude, of solidarity. I close my eyes. They trust me. A soft voice whispers, and I fear you. I open my eyes, Ares standing at the hearth. Do not fear me, I say. Fear faith broken. He grins. Your fear is holier than your heart. I stare at him. Fear is a tool, and I wield it with purpose. He bows, as it was once wielded against you. Night drapes the world in velvet. I walk the balcony, breathing fresh air. Athena joins me. She leans on the railing, watching the city's lamps glow. You act with wisdom. I nod, because I learned when the throne was broken. She looks at me, eyes narrowed, searching. Will that fault never bind you? I touch the thorns stitched into my robes. They are my crown now. She looks at the robes, whispers, they suit you. I smile, half mournful. Thrones bleed. She kneels, but they birth new gods. That night, Hermes finds me in the Hall of Echoes. He stands by the flame of Hephaestus. He says quietly, you grow more feared than Zeus. Then I have done my duty, I say. He kneels, voice trembling. Will you one day forgive him? Not for Zeus, but for the god he once was. I do not answer for long. Then I face him. Forgiveness is for children. I am no longer one. He bows. Then may you no longer suffer his. He departs. Days pass in silver storm clouds. The mortal world learns the new oath, engraved in temple stone. From this day forth, all voices raised in union shall be judged not by blood, but by truth. Temples to me rise two around hearths, in olive groves, on mountain paths. Mortals light fires not for roses, but for vows kept. I sit in council. Zeus watches from beyond, never speaking. Sometimes I sense sorrow, other times defiance. I feel neither pity nor fear. One morning, I dream of fire. Not my fire, his. Zeus's flames scattered across the horizon wild, untamed, untethered. But it does not burn me. I walk into it. It does not sear my flesh. I whisper to its heart, I am Hera. It flickers, and then it becomes ash. I wake at dawn. My chest feels empty, but not weak. I descend to Thetis's shrine by the sea. She stands beneath basalt cliffs, salt wind braiding her hair. You have fortified Olympus. I nod against betrayal. She lifts her eyes, storm gray, ancient. You have replaced loneliness with solitude. I touch her shoulder. Better loneliness with purpose. True, she says, but hearts cannot always stand purpose alone. I stare at her. Do you lament? She shakes her head. I remember what you once were. A breeze gusts, sea spray shimmering. I close my eyes. I remember as well. Back in the palace, the hearth dims. I find Hestia feeding coals. I sit beside her. Do you fear what you have become? She asks. I think of the thorns and the vows, of love's broken scales. No, I say, I am not afraid of what I am. She nods, silent. Then she smiles, small and pure. To exist, we must master fire, not be mastered by it. I rise and walk the corridors. I stop before the chamber of torn oaths, where broken promises are catalogued in marble shards. I kneel and pick up a fragment. It reads, I promise. I place it aside. I whisper to the silence, let broken vows lie here, and let new oaths grow elsewhere. The last act of the day is performed at twilight. I stand before my throne of thorns. My gods assemble around me. No words are spoken, but in the hush, I see hope. I raise my arms. Lightning responds not with violence, but with grace. They kneel. I close my eyes. For the first time, the wind does not tremble. Tomorrow, the world will wake to new vows, to fresh temples, to hope shaped by thunder and tempered by respect. My story remains unfinished, but the next sentence, it belongs to every mortal who swears truth beneath the sky, and every god who dares to remember. I look at Athena. She holds my gaze without fear. She says softly, you have become what fate never granted. I smile. No, I whisper, I became what I chose. I walk away from the throne, not ahead of them, but with them, because the storm they needed was not born of fury. It was born of conviction.